Olympic champion, defending champion, former world number 1, 4-time Grand Slam winner, world number 3. That was not the guest list for a tennis celebration in Washington. That was the road Alex Eala had to survive in 1 week. Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Elina Svitolina, Naomi Osaka, Jessica Pegula. 5 names, 5 different problems. 1 player who arrived without a single WTA singles title. Now picture the final image. Eala is holding the trophy. Philippine flags are moving behind her. The crowd is still trying to understand what happened. Because this was not one famous opponent having a bad day. It was not one lucky break. It was not one strange result that disappeared by the next round. It was a full week of pressure, adjustment, recovery, and survival. So here is the question. How does a player with no WTA title enter one of the hardest draws of the season and leave as the champion? The easy answer is confidence. The easy answer is momentum. Maybe Eala simply became hot at the perfect time. But that does not explain Washington. Power was not enough against Zheng. Speed was not enough against Fernandez. Patience was not enough against Svitolina. Reputation was not enough against Osaka. Experience was not enough against Pegula. Every round demanded something new. Every opponent tried to force Eala into a different kind of match. And every time the tournament seemed ready to reveal the limit of her game, she found another answer. Most breakthrough runs have one defining victory. Eala had 5. She did not avoid the biggest names. She moved directly through them. She did not repeat one perfect formula. She changed the formula every night. By the time she reached the final, she had already defeated an Olympic champion, the defending champion, the 2nd seed, and a 4-time major winner. Yet the hardest test was still waiting. Because before Eala could lift the trophy, she had to face something more dangerous than any opponent across the net. She had to face the last time a championship was within reach, and the 4 chances that slipped away. 1 year earlier, Alex Eala had 4 championship points in the Eastbourne final against Maya Joint. 4 chances to end the match. 4 moments when one clean strike, one forced error, or one brave decision could have changed her career. None of them did. One chance disappeared, then another, then another, then the 4th. The match moved into a deciding tiebreak, and the trophy was gone. A loss like that does not stay in the past. It follows you into the next tight set. It appears when the scoreboard gets close. It whispers when another title comes within reach. Can you finish? That was the question Eala carried into Washington. People already knew she could defeat great players. She had the timing to take the ball early. She had the movement to extend rallies. She had the courage to attack opponents with bigger names and higher rankings. But she still had no WTA singles title. There is a difference between proving that you belong and proving that you can complete the journey. Eala had shown that she belonged. Washington would test whether she could finish. And the tournament did not give her a gentle first step. Her opening opponent was Zheng Qinwen, the Olympic champion from 2024. Zheng brought the kind of power that can make a match feel smaller. Points end quickly. Time disappears. One loose service game can become a set before you understand what happened. Eala started well. She won the first 2 games and showed that she was not intimidated. Then Zheng answered. The rallies became heavier. The pressure moved closer to the baseline. Eala began losing the space she had created in the opening games. Zheng took the first set, 6-4. This was the dangerous moment. Not simply because Eala was 1 set behind. It was dangerous because the pattern felt familiar. A strong beginning. A major opportunity. Then an experienced opponent taking control. This was where Eastbourne could have returned. This was where 4 missed championship points could have become more than a memory. They could have become doubt. But Eala did not rush. She did not try to hit harder than an Olympic champion. She did not chase impossible winners to escape the pressure. She stayed inside the rallies and began changing what Zheng had to solve. 1 ball went deep through the middle. The next pulled Zheng wide. Then Eala changed direction before Zheng could settle into the same pattern. The shift was small at first. A longer rally. A rushed reply. A return placed deep enough to remove the first attack. Eala stopped treating the match like a contest of power. She turned it into a test of adjustment. Zheng wanted the first strike to decide every point. Eala began taking that certainty away. The second set stayed close. Every game felt important. This time, Eala did not disappear when the pressure arrived. She won the second set, 6-4. Now Zheng was not facing the same player she had controlled in the opening set. She was facing someone who had studied the problem while living inside it. In the deciding set, Eala moved faster, returned deeper, and forced Zheng to play one extra ball again and again. The Olympic champion began pressing. The errors came earlier. The space opened. Eala took the third set, 6-1. The final score was 4-6, 6-4, 6-1. It was an opening round victory, but it carried the emotional weight of something much larger. Beating Zheng did not erase the 4 championship points from Eastbourne. It proved that they no longer controlled her. If that kind of resilience is why you watch tennis, stay with this story and subscribe, because Washington was about to ask Eala the same question again under even greater pressure. Beating an Olympic champion should have made the road easier. Instead, the next opponent was the woman who already owned the Washington trophy. Leylah Fernandez knew the court. She knew the conditions. She knew what it felt like to survive the week and leave with the title. And unlike Zheng, Fernandez was not going to overwhelm Eala with one obvious weapon. She was going to make her uncomfortable. Fernandez takes time away from opponents. She changes direction early. She turns ordinary rallies into sudden races toward the sidelines. She also understands how quickly emotion can change a match. Eala controlled the first set, 6-2. It looked calm. It looked clean. It looked like the victory over Zheng had released something inside her. Then the match flipped. Fernandez found her timing. Eala began leaving balls shorter. The defending champion moved closer to the baseline and took control before Eala could establish the point. 1 game became 2. 2 became 4. Fernandez led 5-1 in the second set. Think about that scoreboard. Eala was only a few points away from being dragged into a deciding set against a player who suddenly had all the momentum. This was the moment when most players protect their energy for later. Eala refused to accept that the second set was finished. She held serve. Then she broke. 5-3. Another hold. 5-4. The pressure moved without warning. Fernandez had been 1 game away from forcing a third set. Now every point tested whether she could stop the comeback she had started. Eala won 5 consecutive games. Fernandez managed to force a tiebreak, but the match no longer felt balanced. Eala took it, 7-1. The final score was 6-2, 7-6. No third set. No collapse. No surrender. But another question had appeared. How many times can one player escape a match before the effort begins to take something away? There was no time to find out. Elina Svitolina was next. Svitolina was the second seed, a former world number 3, and one of the most experienced players in the draw. She does not need to overpower you. She waits. She absorbs pace. She extends rallies. She makes you hit one more ball, then another, then another. She gives you enough time to become impatient with your own decisions. Eala had already defeated Svitolina weeks earlier on grass. One victory can happen because of timing. A strange day. A favorable surface. A few important points. Washington was different. Different city. Different conditions. Different surface. Same result. Eala won 6-3, 6-4. She did not treat the earlier victory as proof that this match would be easy. She stayed disciplined. She changed the height of the ball. She refused to rush the finishing shot. When Svitolina extended the rally, Eala stayed patient enough to extend it again. That second victory changed the meaning of the first. One upset can be dismissed. A repeated result becomes a pattern. So when does a surprise stop being a surprise? The answer should have made the road feel safer. Instead, Washington raised the level again. Naomi Osaka was waiting in the semifinal. 4 Grand Slam titles. Former world number 1. One of the most dangerous hardcourt players of her generation. This was supposed to be the point where the run ended. Osaka had the bigger serve, the heavier first strike, the experience of playing major finals under pressure that most players never experience once. Eala had already survived Zheng, Fernandez, and Svitolina. Now she faced a player who could take the racket out of her hand. But the match did not look like that. Eala won 6-4, 6-2, 76 minutes. She won 79% of the points behind her second serve. Across the entire match, she lost only 4 points after landing that second serve. That statistic matters because Osaka was expected to attack it. A second serve is usually where a powerful returner creates fear. It is where the server becomes defensive before the rally has even started. Eala reversed that pressure. She changed placement. She avoided predictable patterns. She used the serve to begin the rally on terms Osaka could not control. Then she attacked the open space before Osaka could recover. The famous name never disappeared. The danger never disappeared. Eala made both of them irrelevant. Zheng tested whether she could recover after losing the first set. Fernandez tested whether she could stop a comeback. Svitolina tested whether one great result could be repeated. Osaka tested whether she could control a match against a champion built for hard courts. Eala answered every question. And somehow, none of those victories would become the most impossible comeback of her week. Jessica Pegula was waiting in the final. World number 3. Top seed. American. Experienced. Complete. Pegula did not give away easy openings. She took the first set, 6-4, and forced Eala to play from behind again. Then the weather arrived. Rain over Washington. Lightning near the grounds. The final stopped with Eala leading 2-1 in the second set. The players left the court. The crowd left the stadium. The scoreboard remained. Eala had to carry an unfinished final through the night. There was no clean emotional reset. No chance to celebrate progress. No way to escape the knowledge that Pegula already owned the first set. The next day, they returned. Pegula settled first. She moved ahead 4-3 in the second set. Now Eala was a few games away from another lost final. 4 championship points had disappeared at Eastbourne. 4 opponents had been defeated in Washington. But Pegula led 6-4, 4-3. Eala had spent the entire week finding a way out. This time, there appeared to be nowhere left to go. At 4-3, Pegula was still in control. She had the first set. She had the ranking. She had the experience. She had spent years learning how to close matches from this position. Pegula was not giving Eala obvious targets. She was not trying to overpower every ball. She was doing something more difficult. She was keeping the court balanced. Deep ball through the middle. Early contact. Clean change of direction. No unnecessary risk. Pegula was removing options so quietly that Eala could only see the problem when the scoreboard was almost finished. The easy explanation for what happened next would be emotion. Eala became inspired. The crowd lifted her. Pegula became nervous. Momentum changed. That explanation sounds good. It is also incomplete. The match turned because Eala stopped playing the version of tennis Pegula had prepared to beat. Until that moment, Pegula had enough time to organize the rally. She could establish her feet and send the ball back into the safest part of the court. Eala changed the timing. She began taking the ball earlier. Not every ball, not recklessly, just early enough to remove a fraction of a second from Pegula. That fraction changed everything. Pegula had less time to recover after moving wide. She had less time to recognize where the next ball was going. Then Eala changed direction before Pegula expected it. A ball that looked ready to travel cross-court suddenly went down the line. A neutral return landed deep enough to push Pegula backward. A balanced rally became uncomfortable in one strike. But the biggest change was less dramatic. Eala stopped trying to end the point too quickly. She did not need the spectacular winner. She needed the open space. A winner is the result. Open space is the process. Eala began moving Pegula until the court created the answer. One deep return. One controlled ball through the middle. One change of direction. Then the opening. This was not desperation. It was construction. What changed the match for you? Was it the earlier return, the sudden direction change, or the patience to build the opening? Put your answer in the comments, because the next 9 games reveal why that detail mattered. Eala held. Then, she broke. The score reached 5-4. Pegula was no longer protecting a lead. She was serving to stay in the set. A few minutes earlier, Pegula could play with margin. Now every short ball gave Eala permission to step forward. Eala took the second set, 6-4. 3 consecutive games. The final had become one set for the title. Pegula had seen matches turn before. She had the experience to slow the pace and force Eala to prove that the second set was more than one burst of momentum. But Eala did not allow the match to return to normal. She attacked the third set like the previous one had never ended. Deep return. Pegula moved backward. Early contact. Pegula moved sideways. Change of direction. Open court. 1 game became 2. 2 became 3. The scoreboard was no longer asking whether Eala could complete the comeback. It was asking whether Pegula could stop it. She could not. Eala was not hitting every ball at maximum speed. She was controlling where Pegula had to stand before the next shot arrived. A 6-0 set can look like one player simply overwhelmed the other. This was more precise. Eala removed time. She removed balance. Then she removed belief. At 3-0, the Philippine flags were already moving. At 4-0, Pegula began forcing shots earlier. At 5-0, the final no longer felt like a contest between a young challenger and the world number 3. The roles had reversed. Pegula was searching for answers. Eala was deciding the questions. Then the last ball ended. 4-6, 6-4, 6-0. 9 consecutive games. Only 8 points lost in the deciding set. For a moment, Eala simply stood there. The scoreboard had finished moving. There was no championship point to replay. No missed opportunity waiting to follow her home. No unfinished final waiting for another day. She had done it. Her first WTA singles title. The first WTA singles title for the Philippines. But the 6-0 was not the real revelation. The revelation was that Eala had not survived Washington by finding one perfect version of herself. She survived by becoming a different player every time the draw demanded it. That is why this was not one lucky week. Luck can help a player survive one difficult match. It can produce a strange result, a few missed shots from the favorite, or one tiebreak that moves in an unexpected direction. Luck does not solve 5 different problems in 5 consecutive rounds. Against Zheng, Eala made power less important. Against Fernandez, she refused to accept the story the scoreboard was telling her. Against Svitolina, she proved that the first victory was not an accident. Against Osaka, she protected the shot that was supposed to be attacked. Against Pegula, she changed the entire rhythm of the final. 5 opponents. 5 different solutions. That is the real meaning of the toughest draw of her career. The draw was not difficult only because of famous names. It was difficult because each name demanded a different kind of excellence. Eala learned faster than the draw could test her. That may be the most dangerous quality a rising player can have. Power can be studied. Patterns can be tracked. Favorite directions can be prepared for. But how do you prepare for a player who changes faster than the match can expose her? Washington gave us the first answer. You do not prepare for one version of Alex Eala. You prepare for the version that may appear after the match begins. This title belongs to Eala, but its meaning reaches far beyond one player, one tournament, or one unforgettable week. For the first time, the Philippines has a WTA Tour singles champion. That matters because Eala did not inherit a clear path into elite tennis. She came from a country that had never produced a champion at this level. There was no proven national blueprint waiting for her. She had to become the example before anyone could follow it. That is why the Philippine flags in Washington felt like more than decoration. They represented people who had waited years to see one of their own stand at the center of a major tennis moment. They represented young players watching from Manila, Cebu, Davao, and Filipino communities around the world. Eala was not only winning matches, she was changing what felt possible. Her victory also changed how the WTA must see her. Before Washington, the biggest names could describe Eala as a dangerous young opponent, someone capable of producing an upset, someone who might catch a champion on the wrong day. That description no longer works. An upset is one match. Washington was 5 solutions. Eala also defeated the 3 highest seeds in the tournament. That had not happened on a WTA title run since Barbara Krejcikova did it in Dubai in 2023. She moved into the world top 20. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach that level. Her name now changes the draw. Her presence changes preparation. Her confidence now comes with proof. That does not guarantee a Grand Slam title. It guarantees something else. Nobody can treat her as an easy round again. So now we can answer the question from the beginning. How did a player with no WTA singles title enter one of the hardest draws of the season and leave as the champion? She did not find one perfect version of herself. She became the version each match required. When the next major begins, the favorites will study the bracket and search for dangerous names. Alex Eala will be one of them. So who would you trust to stop this version of her? Stay with this channel and subscribe, because the next tournament will not only test how far Eala can rise, it will test whether the rest of the tour can adjust as quickly as she can.